What's going on, guys? This is the Red Rogue, and today we'll be doing a bit of a deeper look into the changes our bony boys of Maldraxxus have gone through recently for us rogues and members of their covenant in general. As I mentioned in my video from yesterday, there was quite a substantial amount of changes done to the slightly pointy chicken bone ability. I mean Serrated Bone Spike ability. Sorry, they're pretty similar now. As well as some soulbind talent alterations. So let's see what all of this spells out for us as rogues in the Shadowlands beta in its current state. As a forewarning, and as per usual, beta is still ongoing, tuning is still in process, and anything and everything in this video can and most likely will change to some degree before this hits live servers. Please take all of this information with that in mind. It's no surprise to anyone that's been paying attention to Rogue that the Serrated Bone Spike ability has received a sizable nerf, but it's got a lot of different components to it as well as implications to the potential strengths and weaknesses of the move. We've also had a couple soulbind talent changes come up in this most recent beta build, one of which being an entirely new talent for Emily, and the other being a nerf to Airmir's Marrow Gemstone talent. I'll go over all of these things in this video, so don't worry if you have no clue about anything I just said. Before I get tied up in explaining these changes, I wanted to take a quick moment to thank my newest patron and member of the Super Shiba Squad tier, Oliver Trojan. Thank you so much for your interest and support in the channel, Oliver, and I hope to continue improving the videos and channel at large to the best of my ability. So we'll get the big topic on the table first, Serrated Bone Spike. I went over this first part in yesterday's video, but I'll give you a quick recap if you didn't watch it. Basically, the energy cost of Serrated Bone Spike has increased, its bleed damage has been greatly reduced, and its regular hit damage has been reduced quite a bit as well. Probably the biggest nerf is that it no longer has the fracture effect, which was when you would hit multiple targets with Serrated Bone Spike, and extra hits would trigger on your newest target based on how many Bone Spike bleeds you had active at the time. This all results in a pretty massive drop in damage, as Bone Spike was doing well over 25% of our overall damage in a lot of scenarios. Bone Spike also has the nasty downside of not being able to critically hit, however it is buffed by Assassination's Mastery, and the initial hit damage can be Blade Flurried. So what does this all mean as a Covenant ability for us sneaky boys? Well, this is kind of a different answer based on which spec of Rogue you're considering, so let's take a closer look. In terms of just single target, raw damage like patchwork style damage output, Serrated Bone Spike has definitely been brought in line with basically all of the other Rogue Covenant abilities. Meaning in single target fights, there isn't really any of them doing a whole lot of damage. From trying it in all three specs for multiple 5-minute turn-up target dummy fights, which so far are the only frickin' dummy that won't reset the bleed and charge on Serrated Bone Spike that I can find, it honestly results in a very minimal amount of damage, ranging between 2 to 3.5% across all three specs. In pure single target encounters, the Bone Spike mainly works as a way to have a minor damage over time effect always active so as not to lose literally 100% of your uptime. Though with the large nerf to the bleed, this is still a pretty low amount of damage currently. The energy to combo point ratio for this move is honestly what helps benefit it more than anything else in my opinion at least, especially for low action per minute specs like Assassination. However, for Outlaw and Subtlety, this works as a filler at best in single target situations from what I can tell, and even that is slightly up in the air in terms of viability. Outlaw has numerous unpredictable ways that can increase combo point generation, such as the triple threat conduit, and roll the bones buffs like Skull and Crossbones or Broadside. Broadside seems to be kinda sorta working with this, though I'm still going to do more testing on this part in particular. Currently, from my testing, it seems to make it generate an extra combo point like it should for being a generator, but it's not increasing the damage by 20%, which it should be as part of the Broadside buff. This is just from my testing that I've done so far, of course, but I've replicated this numerous times and come up with the same result. For Subtlety, I can really only see hitting Serrated Bone Spike when you're outside of Shadowlands windows, which honestly nowadays have a pretty high uptime. Assassination has the slowest rotation of the three specs, so the cheap combo point generation definitely helps feel-wise to fill in some points, but even for Assassination, this is currently not simming as anything crazy amazing. For AoE, the only spec that makes Bone Spike feel somewhat competitive is Outlaw, and even then it's not exactly set in stone. This of course can change with the level of dungeon you're doing, but even still there is one thing we have to consider for all three specs of this move: the amount of GCDs you spend on it. Outlaw and Subtlety have a pretty high actions per minute rotation, with Assassination being the only spec of the three with any real slow spots in between. However, even still, Outlaw is the only one that gains a true AoE benefit from it due to the Blade Flurry effect and the fact that Outlaw has a consistent gain of combo points whether it's in single target or AoE. Subtlety's Shuriken Storm is a guaranteed AoE generator based on the number of targets you hit with it, whereas Assassination must have a critical hit trigger from Phantom Knives to gain massive combo points in AoE from the Seal Fate passive. Honestly, all of this information and testing has made me really mixed on Serrated Bone Spike, which has been my preferred Covenant ability due to the playstyle it offered, regardless of the pure damage it dealt in prior builds making it so overpowered. We still have plenty of weeks to go regarding tuning on Covenant abilities, and it probably wouldn't take too much to make Serrated Bone Spike still the most potent ability in general. However, a Covenant shouldn't be judged just on its special ability alone. There are Soulbinds as well, which are the pseudo talent trees you will unlock by earning renown with your Covenant, aka the really convoluted Reputation version 2.0 that's specific to your Covenant. So in our Soulbind trees there are numerous effects, and in this latest build we had 2 changes. Airmir's effect, Marrowed Gemstone, received a sizable nerf from 20% crit chance down to 12% crit chance and from 20 second duration down to 10 second duration. Its internal cooldown has been reduced from 60 seconds down to 50, but this is still a very noticeable damage reduction. It's honestly not too surprising to see this as there has been a lot of Covenant tuning going around all classes and all Covenants, and there has been a new ability added to one of the other Soulbinds of the Necrolords, potentially to make some of the other options closer in performance. Eminie's new Soulbind talent, Lead by Example, sounds quite potent on paper, though there seems to be some issues with it. Currently, it suggests that casting Serrated Bone Spike will give you a 5% increase to your agility, and a 2% bonus to the primary stat of your allies nearby, lasting for 5 seconds total. You're supposed to gain 5% additional agility from each nearby ally, up to a maximum of 15%. However, these percents are definitely off or bugged from my testing so far. The percent gains seem to be tied to your character's base agility for whatever reason, meaning whatever your level 60 rogue has for agility, not how much agility you have combined with your gear and your character. This results in a very minimal increase, and will most likely affect the potency of this talent quite a lot. However, this is still a very new Soulbind talent, literally only like a week old, and it's bound to have some issues. Tuning is always ongoing, of course, meaning this will very well change in numerous ways prior to Shadowlands launch, so this is something I'll be keeping an eye on in the future. However, I will say if it were to give a maximum of 20% agility like the tooltip implies it should, it'd probably be very overtuned, especially with the fact that it has no internal cooldown despite its very short 5-second buff duration window. So after all of this, what does this leave me to say about the current state of the Necrolord Covenant and the Serrated Bone Spike ability? Honestly, I'm slightly less certain of my choice now than I was previously. Of course, tuning and balancing can always change things, though it seems like they are definitely trying to lower the effective, raw damage output of the Rogue Covenant abilities so as to make the choice people make strictly off of how they interact with the class. To me, that's honestly a good change, despite it being a heavy nerf to this Covenant ability. I'm truly one of the opinion that the Covenant should have entirely cosmetic and story choices alone, and damaging effects should have been made a separate component entirely, as I know personally, even if I dislike a certain aesthetic or style of Covenant, I will choose it based on how fun it is to play with and how well it performs, not how it looks or what story I'm thinking of for my character. That's of course just my take on the situation. I hope you folks enjoyed this deeper look into the Necrolord changes we've received in general, and as far as Sneaky Boys go as well. If you ended up liking this video, any comments, likes, or new subscribers are always fantastically appreciated, as they help feed the YouTube algorithm's insatiable hunger. If you're new around here, I'd like to welcome you to come check out the rest of the channel. I do new uploads every week on a variety of content, with an emphasis on rogue-specific stuff. As I always do, I wanted to take a quick moment to thank all of my regular viewers, commenters, subscribers, and especially all of my patrons for helping make these Shiba Shenanigans possible. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the Red Rogue, and I'll see you guys around.